Hey, everybody, it's Victor Pisano with Charge Up. I want to welcome you to another segment of Building the Champion's Mindset. In this series, what we do is try to provide you with resources and people who have the wisdom and the experience to help guide you as you navigate your journey of leadership. Having extra resources just allows you the opportunity to take those mental reps and hear from other people who've experienced amazing things and let them offer you kind of a GPS or bumpers on your road to life. So with that, I want to introduce somebody, and what makes this show particularly special to me is you've seen so many athletes that I have had the honor of knowing, working with, and programs across the nation. But this is the first time where I actually get to interview a mentor of mine. I'm going to expose you to somebody who changed my life. And it's exciting because he's about to change others' lives. We thought he was going to retire. You can't do that to somebody like Coach Danny Padron because he has a absolute calling to serve. And he probably sat too long, watched way too much Texas high school football, and said, I got to go. The announcement comes at a great time. We'll get into that as we progress into this conversation, but I want to tell you a little bit about him. So Coach Padron began his coaching career at the age of 19 years old at St. Gerard High School here in San Antonio, Texas. He's a graduate of Our Lady of the Lake University with a degree in mathematics. Over an incredible span of 46 years, Coach Padron has earned a spot in the Texas high school playoffs as either an assistant coach or a head coach for 27 years. And within that includes 2 state titles, a state runner-up, 2 state semifinalists, 2 state quarterfinalists, 5 regional finalists, 7 area, and 17 district championships. And that's just his time as a high school coach. So in case you're wondering, that success resulted in a combined record as either an assistant or a head coach of 253, 81, and 3 from 1981 to 2009. There are coaches who work a lifetime to get to half that many wins. An amazing accomplishment, but it's not over. In 2010, Coach Padron was named the head coach at Texas Lutheran University in Seguin, Texas. In just 7 years, TLU won 3 consecutive NCAA Division III Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference titles. And Coach Padron earned SCAC Coach of the Year honors in 2013, 2014, and 2015. In 2017, decided to retire, and with a great legacy left behind as TLU's all-time wins leader. So now fast forward to about 2 weeks ago. This is what we talked about in the intro. We think he's just playing golf, traveling the world, enjoying himself. No. We find out that, to the surprise of many and the excitement of many more, that he has decided to come out of retirement and do what he does best, and that's be a transformational leader with our youth. It was announced that Coach Padron would become the head coach at Antonian High School football here in San Antonio, Texas, beginning in the fall. Coach, I am so excited that you're going back where it all began and where I think you changed the lives of so many people, myself included. So, friends, Coach Danny Padron.
Thank you, Victor. I certainly appreciate that intro, and of course your friendship has meant a lot. It's very humbling to be in this situation. You call me mentor, but that's a high compliment, and I thank you for that. And I'm so proud of you and what you've done with Charge Up. I got a chance to follow it, and excited to see the success that you're having as well.
So you got to tell me, did you just get goosebumps when you finally realized I'm going to do this?
Well, I was sitting there talking with our pastor. I'm working at St. Matthew's Catholic Church. They got me on staff there. And we were talking about, things that I want to do. And he said, now, would you go back into coaching if someone asked you to? And I mean, without a doubt, I said, yes, Father. That's exactly what I would do. But, that first year we were out, we were enjoying ourselves, my wife and I, traveling and seeing my son who was coaching at Bowling Green in Ohio. So that first year was good. But after that, it was, I could feel the passion. I mean, you miss the relationships. That's what it's all about. And I think, you're talking about leadership. That's relationships. And I really miss that, being with players, being with the coaches, the community, the students. You've done it for a long time, 46 years, and you really miss that.
I think the irony of it all was I remember getting the phone call from Devlin Lovell,
right,
who is now the athletic director at Antonian, who was at Clark High School the same time I was. Devlin was playing basketball and running track. And when he called, he goes, "This is the most amazing thing to happen to Antonian." And I never thought that I would say his name as a coach at Antonian. And, you've made comments before where, you're seeing at St. Matthew's players with their kids.
Yeah.
And for us as those players, for those people who had you in algebra, for those people who got to know you, it was such an excitement when they saw your name resurface, because everybody knows exactly what Antonian is going to get. Like, these kids have no clue the leader that is going to appreciate them for so much more than what they provide in terms of performance on the field. You made boys into men just by building character, building integrity, those things I talked about at the beginning. And I think that's what excites me the most, is what an example these kids are going to have from a legend in Central Texas who has made his mark for years. And I'm so excited, and I just want to congratulate you before we get started.
Thank you, Victor. Those kind words are greatly appreciated, but it humbles me.
So this is going to be a tough one, but I want to go straight to it.
Okay.
So 46 years of coaching, participating either as an assistant or a head coach in the Texas high school playoffs for 27 years. That included 2 state titles, a high school coaching record of 253, 81-3, 3 consecutive NCAA Division III Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference titles, 3-time Coach of the Year, and Texas Lutheran's all-time wins leader. Can you sum up that period of time in one word?
Yeah, definitely blessed. Blessed would be the word. I'm just very fortunate to be with good people, be with great coaches, great players, great programs. Just blessed.
I'm sure a lot of people had to remind you of how many wins you had, because you probably never had a clue.
I had no clue. I didn't know where you got those numbers from.
They probably had to tell you, wear a suit because you're going to get a Coach of the Year honors. And you're like, "Oh, I got practice. It's got to be after practice." That's the only thing that comes to my mind. He may not know any of these numbers because he didn't keep track of wins and losses. He focused on effort and what was on the field.
I have no idea. Yeah.
So people from across the nation talk about Texas high school football. It's a lore here in Texas. What do you think it is that makes it so special?
It's just important. I mean, it really is important. We're raised on it. There's just so many things. It's the football team is a focal point in the community. It's visual. There's a great source of pride. People. It's just a great unifier. And on Friday nights they get a chance to come and kind of forget about what they've been doing, and they can kind of be able to root for their team and root for their guys. And it's just a great rallier. And I just, like I said, I really missed it, and of course, being in high school football, I got a chance, my son back into high school football. And last year really did it for me, because, being back in high school games, there's nothing better, especially at Texas, because it is important. But it's probably the one place you can teach the intangibles, the things that you talk about in your program with Charge Up. We're talking about sacrifice, determination, teamwork, all those things that just make it a better life. And I think we get that opportunity in football, and everyone everyone on that team and everyone in that community is a part of it. So it's an exciting place to be.
Friday nights to me were always about competition, friends, and family, because
Yeah.
all of that was in one place.
Yeah.
And after the game, win or lose, and we use the word blessed again because during my time at Clark, we did not lose much. We were focused. We had an incredible group of coaches and players. But
Yes.
after the game, I remember just being at Clark, and our parents would be talking with all the coaches,
Yeah.
and we would have dinner. We would go to somebody's house, and
Yeah.
there was so much camaraderie.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit different than it is today.
Yeah.
The relationships were different. Coaches really understood connection back then, and I'm glad to see it resurfacing. It's coming back as an important trait. But there was something about looking while you're practicing under those trees at Clark and seeing 20, 30 dads,
Yeah.
and they were just talking and having a good time and shaking your hands. They weren't talking about kids playing time. They weren't complaining about the game. They just literally enjoyed being in that atmosphere. And I really think that's where Clark, Texas, the high school we came from and you coached at, came from. And that's for me, that was the epitome of being on a team. It was more than just me. My parents had as much fun as I did. And Friday was the best day of the week.
Great memories.
I read a quote from Dr. Stuart Dorsey, who was the president of TLU while you were the head coach. And he said something that I could relate to immediately. He said, Danny Padron will be remembered not just as a great football coach, but as one of TLU's transformational leaders. So when I think back to the 4 years that I was blessed to have you as a football coach at Clark High School, in hindsight, it's so evident to me that both coaching and teaching for you were a calling to serve. I don't think I was mature enough to recognize it at the time, but as I've gone through the process of understanding what it takes, the sacrifice and the willingness, I see what he means by calling you a transformational leader. And it was you placing such a high priority on connecting with the student athlete, that word we used earlier. But it was as important to you to also instill integrity and character, things that I am actually a better man for today, because you made it a habit for us. It wasn't just an act. It became a habit. So did you have a particular mentor that taught you how important those things were, or did it also occur over time with you as you learned and gained wisdom and experience?
We were all, I guess, influenced by our coaches, high school coaches, men that we worked with. I mean, I can name them here. I hate to name them all because I would probably leave one of them out, and that would be terrible. But I was very fortunate to work with great men and women. I can go back and point to my calculus professor, Sister Marilyn Malloy. She was just dynamic, and I think a model that I use in my teaching career. Enthusiastic for the student. You knew that you could count on her. She's not an opponent. She's there with you, and she's going to be there to help you. I think one of the things I did early in the year is to try to let our algebra students know, hey, you can do this. You can do this. No matter what your past has been, we're going to work together. And that's why, and she was the one that kind of modeled that. And then there's a professor, when I did graduate work at UTSA in the education department, Dr. Wayne Lawfrey, one of the earliest classes I took, he used to begin classes much like I did in the algebra classes. That gave me the idea, because he was trying to connect with us as people, building those relationships, because that's where it starts, Victor.
Absolutely.
That. You've been talking about that. It starts with building relationships. When you have a relationship with your student, and now you still got to be the student and the teacher. That's still. I always used to tell them, I can't be your friend until you're out of this class. But hopefully, and when you're out of this class, I am going to be your friend. But right now, friends don't demand things, and as a teacher, I do. So he really gave me some ideas, and of course, I was very lucky to be involved with Zig Ziglar right from the start. Had an opportunity to listen to him. I connected, and so I started sharing things out of that. Not only did it help you as a student, but it helped me as a teacher and as a coach. And so a lot of times you think that I was doing it for your benefit. It was really no, I'm kidding, but it did. It did. It really did benefit me. And doing it 2 or 3, 4 periods a day, every day for how many years, that became a part of me. And so I owe a lot of that to Zig Ziglar. I owe a lot of that to those professors and those teachers. I owe a lot to the coaches I work with. I'm talking about, George Pasterchik at St. Gerard. I was a 19-year-old kid, and he just took me under his wing, and he showed me the enthusiasm, the love for the game, and I felt that passion. And then Mike Honeycutt taught me how to work, a work ethic. Were you there, Victor, as a freshman when Coach Honeycutt was still there?
No, sir. So when I came in, it was Coach Mike Robbins.
Okay. Well, you missed him because he was a unique guy. Now, he was pretty demanding, but yet he taught you how to work. And then Coach Robbins, and you know this because you worked with him personally as an offensive lineman. There is not a coach I know who has any more compassion and love for his players than Big Mike Robbins. And I learned a lot from him. He has that gruff exterior and that show off, that show country guy, but there's not a bigger heart than he. And he really taught me a lot about that. And then I had an opportunity to work with D.W. Rutledge. He kind of put it all together and shared not only the organizational part, but also a spiritual part. Really was a good Christian leader as well. We had that at Clark with Coach Reeve, who was, our FCA. He and I did the FCA. And so I was very fortunate to be a part of 2 great staffs right there that really kind of helped me formulate, gave me that meaning and that purpose, I think. And the moment I started realizing, hey, it's more than just teaching, blocking, and tackling. It's more than that. And to have that opportunity, then it became a ministry to me. And I understood then what, God had plans for me. Jeremiah 29:11, that's still my scripture. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. And to me, that really taught me about, hey, this is what I am as a coach. This is what I am as a teacher. And now I have meaning and I have purpose. And my purpose is to help the people that I'm with, even the community, help them to be better people. And if you have that, then everything else falls in line.
I think so many people were attracted to the passion you had for the game, the passion you had for the student athlete. Your inner circle was tremendous in terms of providing you wisdom and experience, because each of the coaches you named are Texas legends. They all have contributed so much to not only the sport, but the foundation, the core pillars that I believe an athlete should operate from. And what a blessing to have those people who not only mentored you, but then for you to pay it forward with the coaching staffs that you put together as a head coach, and you paid it forward. And it's probably a great feeling for you knowing that you were given the torch by some pretty amazing people, and you continue to light the fire in everybody you could around you.
Well, thank you.
As part of the Building the Champions Mindset series, one of the things we talk a lot about is leadership. I'm curious to know, first, how would you define leadership? And then what are some of those key characteristics that you feel prepare a student athlete both on and off the field, not necessarily to be successful, but to live a fulfilled life, which to me is successful?
Right. Well, I think leadership is all about influence, and I think, but like I said earlier, you don't have that opportunity to be an influence unless you build that relationship. So it's all about relationships. It's all about connecting with that person as a person. And, we're talking about things like self-esteem, things about relationships, things about setting goals, all those things we used to do in our class. I really think as a leader, that's what you want. And so, we can go through all the characteristics of leadership, being an example, being humble, and showing gratitude. Because one thing I learned about gratitude that I did mention is that, you can't be unhappy when you're grateful. If you're grateful, you can't be unhappy. And so I like, to be in that state where people see me and they always know, hey, they can come to me because I'm going to have a smile on my face. I want to be looking at the blessings and not the bad things that are happening. I like to be around people that have that same type of attitude. So I think attitude is a key. When I was teaching, it was all about those relationships, but it was also about attitude and teaching what a good attitude's about, making good choices, developing those good habits, because that's what your destiny is, reaching the goals. But I think, leadership is something that is taught. They talk about natural leaders. Well, you're looking at people that are examples for you, and you're reading and you're thinking, and goes back to also being a giver. Someone who is unselfish, who is humble, who is looking to help others. And I think it's just putting others first. So those are good Christian principles as well. Jesus taught us that. So I think that's really what I would say leadership is all about.
And I love the fact that you used the word influencer, because when I think of influencer, it's somebody who elicits something out of you.
That's good. That's good.
And they do it through action, example, action, example, action, example. It's repetitive. And finally, you realize there's a reason things are going right for them. And you begin to relate, and you start emulating those same things.
Right.
And I think that's an amazing thing to watch happen. And today, so many student athletes really they're struggling with learning how to really be uncomfortable. And in order for them to grow, I tell them all the time, learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You want to be vulnerable. You talked about humility. You want to be humble. And sometimes it's difficult. Like, being vulnerable is not easy, but at the same time, being a leader can be a very lonely job. It's just, what are your core values and what are your non-negotiables? Yeah. And when the day comes that you got to stand up for those things, integrity.
Yeah.
So, but I will say, you talked about every time somebody saw you had a smile on your face. There were a couple times at practice, Coach, you did not have a smile on your face when I approached you.
That's all acting, Victor. That's all acting. It's just trying to get you going. But yeah, you're right. There's some times.
Maybe just a couple.
I will say maybe this: as I got older, I got more under control.
As soon as you said that, I started thinking back. I was like, I remember him sometimes being a little upset. I can remember he didn't have a smile when he called my name and went like this. Hey, I'm glad I can laugh about those times. That's the best part of it all. That's the best part of it all.
How much I enjoyed you, and we had a great relationship, and I loved you because you were a trier, and that's what high school football is about guys that just busted their rear end all the time, and you always had a smile on your face, and you were always laughing. You were a great.
That got me in trouble sometimes.
I know it. Yeah, you're right. I did on you. But I mean, it was special. And like you said, we had a great group of young men that made it a joy to come to work each day. So
I remember one story in particular where Coach Robbins was asking me why I smiled all the time. And I said, I think it's just because I'm an extrovert. And he goes, good, because you're going to be running extra sprints. I learned, don't answer those questions anymore. Just say yes, sir.
That's good stuff.
So you talked about earlier, and I did not know the story about the people who influenced you with the beginning of class and bringing a lesson into it.
Yeah.
This is God's honest truth. My fascination with leadership really came from you, and it wasn't on the field. It was you spending those first 10 or 15 minutes of algebra class on a daily message. I know you had a lesson plan, but you had a plan for us at the beginning of every single class that was unique, that was different, and it made you become more self-aware, and you almost had to stop for a second, forget everything that happened before that day, be in the moment. And it reminded me each day of what our obligations were, the importance of the little things in life. You introduced me to Zig Ziglar, and what was funny is you had the book, you gave me a book, and I came home and I was like, Dad, this is the coolest thing in the world. And he bought me the cassette tapes. I think I had 12 cassette tapes in a big old packet. Yeah. And, some of our friends would be like, we drive to school, why are you listening to this and not music? I'm like, this stuff is great. And I know Coach Padron is going to call on me, and I got to make sure that I can remember something out of it. Hey, tell me honestly, you saw on social media how many people talked about that 10 minutes People who weren't even athletes talked about that. So when I used the one word earlier and I talked about legacy, how does that make you feel knowing that those 10 minutes, although algebra class was extremely important and we worked so hard to achieve what we needed to, it was as important to offer a lesson of belief. And now that's kind of your legacy with so many people who didn't have the honor of having been coached by you. How does that make you feel?
Well, certainly humbled. It really does, Victor. It really, but as I look at it, that's exactly what a teacher is supposed to be doing. And I think that's how we built those connections. That's how we built those relationships, I think. And like I said, one of the things that in my calling, in my ministry, it was helping you to be the best person you can be. And I found that those books, I did a lot of Reader's Digest books. Remember those magazines and stuff?
Right.
A lot of the stories I used to share out of those because they were positive, uplifting stories. I really felt like with all the negativity in the world, and it gets worse and worse, we need to be filled with the positive thoughts and that hope. Jeremiah 29:11, the one I quoted a while ago, he talks about, my job as a coach and as a teacher was to give you hope and a future. And that motivated me to try to be the best teacher that I could be, because it's about our students' lives. And that was that 1 hour there. it was my responsibility to do that. Not only the mathematics, and I used to get in trouble sometimes. They always kind of ask me, well, how, I've got 50 minutes for math. I can't get everything done in math. And you're sitting there spending 5 or 10 minutes talking before class. And how can you do that? And I said it was very easy, because those 5 or 10 minutes enabled us to get through the other 40 minutes because we were motivated. We had a better attitude. I've always talked, you always work on attitude first, when building that relationship, because once you start feeling better about yourself, you start understanding how important attitude is, because attitude determines the choices you make. You got choices to listen, or you got choices not to. With a better attitude, those people are listening. So we got a chance. They could be spending 50 minutes on math, and Victor, maybe 5 minutes, they've heard it, and the other 45, they're thinking about something else. So that 5 or 10 minutes was really designed to improve their choices. And of course, you improve the choices, what happens? You start developing habits. And then those habits lead to those goals, whether you acquire those goals or you don't. But better habits lead you to your goals. Bad habits lead you away. So we're trying to build good habits that lead us to our goals. And once that happens, there's your destiny. There's your success. Look at you. Look at what you've taken, the attitude all the way to your success right now. And that, as a teacher and as a coach, those are the things that are worthwhile. It's not about anything else. Legacy or still, I have nothing to do with that. I appreciate people like you saying those nice things, and I really do appreciate that. This is kind of like my funeral, I guess. I get a chance to see my funeral. But really,
you got a long way to go. You got a football season. We'll talk about that later.
Those are nice things. I really do. But I did it, and it really did benefit me as well. I joked about that, but it did. It kept me, kept me from yelling at you guys or even using profanity. I started getting better in my habits and the things that I expected as a teacher and as a coach. Things that I shudder at today when I see coaches do that. We don't allow that. We don't allow any type of profanity, because it's just a ridiculous thing. I learned that as a young coach. I had some lessons to learn, and so I did, I think, and it helped me. Zig Ziglar's books, no question about it, they made a big difference in my life too.
What that time did, again, in hindsight, you're never that smart as a teenager. You think you know it all, so you don't have any room in your mind to accept that you don't. But it made me realize that the most important moment is now.
Yeah.
So I was able to go into it with a clear mind, because I struggled with math. You knew that. And you were always willing practically every day to help me a little bit to get through the challenges. But for the teacher who did say I can barely make it in 50 minutes, I will say that first 5 or 10 minutes made everybody stop, realize the most important moment is now. It gave us a clear head, and then we attacked the lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Almost no
found that.
different than what we did on the field.
That's right.
So it was an amazing thing to have one of my most difficult courses not be a challenge, because part of the secret was just focusing, not
Yeah,
worrying about what happened before. Don't worry about what's going to happen after. Just listen. Just
that's
listen. It's all right there. I could have used you, by the way, my freshman, sophomore, and junior year in college.
true.
But that's okay. I got the diploma, but I could have used someone just like you. We talked about this, and it's, for me, it's a great way to end the interview. Since the day I met you, you showed a belief in me, and I think for every student, when they find that person who believes in them, it gives them the motivation to raise the bar. It proves to them the importance of growth, because as much as we challenge ourselves and set our own goals, it's always great to have someone outside of your family who's rooting for you. You did it for me in the classroom. You did it for me when I didn't even have you in class. You still demanded to see my grades. You wanted to know if I was focused. You wanted to know if I was doing the things that you had taught me. You did the same thing for me on the football field. And what amazes me is how that friendship carried over, because you always followed up with our group. We were very fortunate to come from great families, great friends, and we stayed in contact. And that's important to me, because coaches shape student athletes' lives. Well, why just limit it to the 4 years you're in high school?
Right.
We were always able to go back to you. And I still remember, like it was yesterday, when I decided I needed to get out of my grief and move into gratitude when my dad died. I went to you and I said, I'm thinking about this thing called Charge Up, and this is what I want to do. And I was real unsure. And it was funny because at 50 years old, I walked out of that restaurant and I was like, I felt the same I did at 16 and 17. Like, you got me excited. You told me, if you feel it in your heart, like, go do it. Go spread the word. It's positive and it's reinforcing. Go out there and do it. Like, you have to go with your heart. You have to do it.
Yeah.
And I tell people when I speak today, and whether it's at the college level or the high school level, I tell them, you've been given a gift as a student athlete.
Mm-hmm.
You are, in essence, the cream of the crop, because you're not just willing to go to school. You're willing to go above and beyond and participate in something that's bigger than you.
Yeah.
And once they understand what that gift means, with it comes pride and privilege.
Mm-hmm.
As an athlete, as a coach, and today, as you prepare to go into a new season, out of retirement, at a new school, what are some ways that you teach pride and privilege to your players?
Well, we go back through the same way. They know our philosophy, and that's to help them become the best person that they can be. And from there, it just goes on. We start using the same things I did in class. We'll talk about those intangibles, like attitude, and talk about, how attitude determines really your destiny, as it goes through your choices, your habits, your goals, and your destiny. So we start developing that, and we start going through, basic things like scriptures that we use, fight, finish, and faith. Okay, we start building a culture of that, because it goes back to where Paul was saying, I fought the good fight, I finished the race, I have kept the faith. And so we talk each of those three words, fight, finish, and faith. That really kind of defines our program, because fight is about the struggles that we have. It's not just about the competition, although it is part of that for football. But the fight, I use the story of a butterfly, the butterfly that's trying to get out. He's in his, it's called a chrysalis, whatever. And this guy comes upon it, and his mother was really a great, person as far as butterflies and stuff. And so he knew how to take care of it. So he got his little napkin and he put that thing in, and he put that cocoon or the chrysalis inside of a bottle, and he put holes in it, and he set it up on his deal. And he loved to watch and the butterflies. And so he was watching, and finally that chrysalis started moving and started busting, he thought, oh gosh, something's wrong. And so he unscrews that top, and pulls it off, and he takes that cocoon, it's shaking vibrantly, and he takes his little penknife and he slits aside, and sure enough, boom, that old butterfly's wing comes out, and then another one comes out, and he gets up there and he walks along that mantle, but it doesn't fly. And so he's, that guy is sitting there really concerned now because now the butterfly doesn't fly. He thought, well, maybe its wings are wet. He's waiting till it dries off, but he's sitting there watching, and nothing happens. So he calls his science teacher from high school, and he tells him what he did. And he said, "What'd you do? You cut that cocoon? You cut the chrysalis?" I said, "Yeah." I says, "Well, that's it." And he goes, "What do you mean that's it?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "That butterfly is able to fly because of the struggle he has to get out of that thing. That's what strengthens him. It's those fights that we have." And I think that's, we start out with our fight, and that struggles that we have, that's going to benefit us as a team, and it benefits just a person. So those are the things we start doing. We start, every day, Victor, we'll do the same thing with our football team as I did in the classroom. We'll talk 5 or 10 minutes before practice, and we'll talk about things like that. Finish, the story about the bulldog, just it's about, hanging in there and being tough and going through it. And then the faith there's lots of stories with that. And we talk about what we call the story of I believe. I think I don't know if I shared that with you before or not, but anyway.
But would you share that again? Because that is one of my favorite stories.
Sure. It's this daredevil goes around all the cities and stuff. And this is back in the early 1900s. And, there was no TV on, and no football on TV. So everyone, they came out to these barnstorming events. So this guy said, "Hey, I'm fixing to walk a tightrope across Niagara Falls." And so it took him a whole week, to set up his platforms on both sides and string that tightrope up. And sure enough, Saturday came and the people were there on both sides, on Canada and the United States, and bands were there and they were playing, they were excited. And the daredevil goes up with his balancing beam and he starts to toe the line and he backs off and he grabs his megaphone. He says, "Do you believe?" And all the people were saying, yeah, we believe. We believe you're an idiot for trying this, but a lot of people came to see him fall. They wanted that, because they were kind of jealous of him, but some of them really wanted him to make it. And so he would go and grab his megaphone again. "No," say, "Do you really believe?" Say, yeah, we believe. And so he takes that beam and he walks across that tightrope. About halfway, he kind of wavers a little bit and then goes on to the other side. And people were yelling and cheering and hugging and crying and clapping, He made it. That daredevil made it. You see that? He made it. Yeah, I knew he's going to make it. And then he comes back and he toes the line again and he takes his balance beam and he throws it away. And he grabs the megaphone. "Do you believe?" And sure enough, people are saying, "Oh my gosh, he's going to do it without a balance beam." We said, "Well, I'm not sure, but yeah, we believe." "No," I said, "You really believe?" Yeah, we really believe. So he toes that line. He makes it across again. He gets back to the middle and kind of wavers a little bit. And then he moves on all the way to the end. And the people now were going crazy, crying and hugging, kissing babies. It was the greatest thing at all. But that daredevil didn't come down. He went to the back of the platform. He removed a tarp and he grabbed a wheelbarrow and he rolled that wheelbarrow out to that tightrope. And he grabs his megaphone and he goes, "Do you believe?" Now they're all standing up. You bet we believe. You're the one. Yeah, we believe. He said, "No, do you really? We really believe." And then he says, "Okay, if you really believe, then who among you will come in and get in this wheelbarrow and I'll push you across?" Silence, But the whole message there is, about that belief is that when you're playing with your teammates, you got to really believe. You got to be, say, "Hey, I believe in you. I'll get in your wheelbarrow. In fact, you get in my wheelbarrow and I'll carry you to the other side." Because that's what it's about. That's the thing about football. It's the thing about businesses, corporations, companies, families, churches. It's about believing in each other and coming together and trusting that other person. And so that fight, finish, and faith, you got to believe. Of course, it starts with belief in your God and then belief in your teammates, your coaches, your school. It's just a great message. But we like to use that fight, finish, and faith as a way of describing the culture at Antonia.
And the beautiful thing is you carry those 3 words with you for the rest of your life. That's fulfillment.
Yeah.
Absolute fulfillment. What a perfect way to end an interview that I'm so excited to have, because your enthusiasm and the way you told the story is I was blessed for 4 years to have that every single day. And that was my goal in this interview, was for people to see how important mentorship is, how important having a passion for what you're doing is to not only yourself, but to others. And I want to thank you for investing the time you did in me, because, I can count them on one hand, the people who were willing to go above and beyond. And I'll forever be grateful for that. But I appreciate you being a part of this. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge. I hope you'll come back once the season gets going, because I want to see Texas high school football coach Padron in the fall when we get on the other side of this and we get competing again. And that's when the fire comes out in you. I can't wait to go to a game and cheer you guys on.
Well,
Coach,
Victor,
I sincerely thank you.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Victor. And I'm going to tell you, I've been interviewed by a lot of people, but I thought, your questions were right on, and it was really good. It did bring out some thoughts, and I thank you for your preparation and for your kind words. They really mean a lot to a teacher and a coach. That's really what you work for, is getting that from your former players and students. So I certainly appreciate that.
I have a big debt to repay. So I'm always here if you ever need anything, Coach. I sincerely thank you for being a part of today. I hope you have a great day. Please tell your family I said hello.
We'll do it.
And charge up, Coach.
All right, charge up. Thank you, Victor. God bless.
Yes, sir. Thank you.